Hello and welcome. Today I would like to show you how I made my own Owl House themed tote bag and talk a bit about why I love this show so much. Before I begin, I would like to say that technically this video isn't meant to be a tutorial. However, I will try to explain in as much detail as I can the process of making this and the materials that I used for it, as well as some alternatives that can be potentially used. So let's get into it. I'll divide the making of this project into 3 parts, and I'll list the materials needed for each step. For part 1, you'll need a paper, a pencil, an eraser, a black Sharpie pen, and a blank tote bag. Additionally, you might want to also have a regular black pen for the small details in the drawing, such as like the face and those type of things. Once you have your materials ready, we can proceed on to the next step, which would be to look up an image of the drawing from the show that you like. So in my case, I was debating between these 2 drawings. Both were made by the creator of the Owl House, Danate Res. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. I am so sorry. But what I generally like about these 2 drawings is that, well, it has my favorite characters, Luz Noceda and King. And the reason why I was debating between these 2 is because, well, the second one, as you can see, has a more Halloween theme going on, and after all, my birthday is on October. But at the end of it, I decided I wanted something less holiday themed, I guess. But really it comes down to personal preference. Honestly, both are really good drawings. I just ended up going for the first one. But yeah, pick whichever one you like and whichever one you're willing to work through and spend your time on for the next couple of days or weeks. So once you have the reference image that you will be using, we can proceed to pass this drawing onto the paper. And the way I did it was by basically having my phone in front of me the entire time and drawing the image onto the paper by eye. It was a painful process, kind of. But I will say that the alternatives to this could be to either print out the image or trace it from your device's screen. But I decided to do it by eye or by observing the drawing from my phone for 2 particular reasons. So one, at the moment, I didn't have a device that was, I guess, big enough for me to trace the image directly from the screen onto the paper. But more than anything, the second reason was that I consider this to be good practice for your art skills, since in order to have your drawing as similar as it can be to the source material, you need to analyze and break down the basic components of the drawing, and that helps you understand how this artist that you admire uses anatomy in their drawings and that type of stuff. But that's kind of my own personal opinion on that, but that was a little bit of my reasoning behind that. If you choose to do it by eye, start off with a sketch to get an idea of the proportions of your drawing. More preferably, a loose sketch. After this, proceed to do a rough sketch or a more detailed sketch. And after you have this done, you can move on to the line art, which should be preferably done with a Sharpie pen. A fine point Sharpie pen, because otherwise it will mess up your work. In addition to that, you might also want to have a regular black pen that will help you with the more fine or smaller details such as the nose, the mouth, the eyes, those type of things. Now, what you will proceed to do is to put your drawing inside of the tote bag and then trace it with your pencil onto the tote bag. I will add that this step is a little bit hard because it's hard to see through the fabric of the tote bag. So what you can do is find a bright white screen to put underneath that will help you see you're drawing through the fabric, or anything that's similar to that will be very useful. Once you have your design on your tote bag, you are ready for part 2, and part 2 material list is a embroidery hook, a black thread, and a needle. Once you have all your materials ready, you can begin to embroider your design with the black thread. And this part, I guess I would mainly call it your line art. And if you don't feel like coloring in your design, you can honestly just leave it with the black line art, and I personally think it would still look good and it would still look fashionable enough to use. But if you want to go the extra mile, then you can color it in like I did. It takes more time, more work, but if you're actually willing to do it and you put your effort and energy into it, it's honestly worthwhile. Now, like I said in the beginning, this isn't a complete tutorial, so I won't really be showing how to embroider. One, because I don't have recordings of that, good recordings of me embroidering, and two, if I tried, I would be very bad at explaining. But maybe in the future I could try, I'm not sure. But for now, I do plan on leaving some of the videos that helped me personally get the hang of it. Again, I wouldn't really try to explain the process because I'm still a beginner and I'm still learning. But I will try to leave some videos here that I think will be very useful if you're also a beginner and you want to get the hang of it. So I'll leave that in the description below. And hopefully that helps. Now you're ready for part 3, and the material list for part 3 are colorful threads. I probably should have been more specific. But here's a picture of the threads I specifically used for this design, and I'll do my best to leave the proper naming for each color in the description. Hopefully I'm not too lazy to do that. But then again, it really varies or it changes depending on what design you're going to do. I will say that I did not have a specific embroidery thread that was a match for Luz Naceda's skin color, and that was really important for me. So what I did was that I used white embroidery thread for her skin, and once I had all of that done, I used one of my Copic markers that are skin color tones that are closer to her skin color, and I just colored over the white thread. It worked, but I feel like it's not entirely as close to her actual skin color, but I tried, and I guess that's what counts, right? But yes, if you're having a similar issue with your design, then maybe you can use that. If you have any other suggestion or any other idea on how to deal with that, let me know, because I would very much appreciate that piece of advice. Once you get the hang of embroidering your design, you might notice that it can be a very relaxing process. In my personal experience, I deal with a lot of anxiety, and sometimes when I'm watching one of my favorite shows, I'm not able to properly enjoy it because I'm constantly feeling like I'm not being productive enough. And with embroidery, I can kind of fight off those thoughts and feelings a bit, I guess, because when I get them, I can think, or I can respond to myself, well, I am doing something, I am embroidering this, and I'm watching my favorite show while I'm doing that. But along with doing that, I've also reflected a bit on that, and the truth is, you shouldn't feel guilty for giving yourself some time to breathe and do something that you genuinely enjoy, whether that's watching your favorite show, whether that's a sport that you like, practicing a sport that you like, maybe you like baking, or whatever it is that you do that it's a hobby for you and you just genuinely enjoy it. You shouldn't feel guilty for taking some time to do that thing that you love doing, because you're not being unproductive for taking some time for yourself and for your mental health. You deserve that. You deserve that time to breathe and relax. You shouldn't feel guilty for that. And honestly, I can't say, hey guys, I found the cure to this. I no longer feel anxious. I still do. I still feel very anxious for a lot of things. But with this small reflection that I kind of made through the process of learning this, I've been able to deal with that feeling a little bit better. So aside from that, I was going to give a little bit of my own personal thoughts on why I love the show, because the word like is not enough to describe my feelings towards this show. So I'm gonna say why I love this show. If you follow me on Instagram, or if we're friends, you should probably already know that I am obsessed with this show. And if I'm given the chance, I will literally talk about this show for hours and hours without end. But for the sake of this video, and for the sake of the sanity of everyone who's watching this video, I'll try to keep it short. I started to watch The Owl House on January of 2020, which was the time at which the first episode came out, and while I enjoyed the first episode a lot, I have to admit that after episode 1, I lost track of the show and didn't watch the rest of season 1 as it was coming out. It didn't have anything to do with whether the show was good enough or not. I was simply busy with other stuff at that time and honestly had no clue that more episodes were coming out. So yeah, some time passed and I started to get more and more posts about the Owl House on my phone, and that was enough to convince me to go back and finish the rest of the season. And that's when I really got into this show. I love the Owl House for the representation it gives, such as representation of different ethnicities, identities, and neurodivergency, and other stuff. My personal favorite aspects of the show come down to how much I love the fact that, for example, the main character is Latina. Because as a little kid, I really wanted to see a character that looked a little bit like me and that I could actually relate to. And for me, Luz Noceda is exactly that. Now, another thing I deeply admire of this show is how it portrays the different struggles of anxiety and trauma in a way that I'd say is pretty accurate, but still digestible for the viewer. I'm trying to keep it sweet and short because there's honestly so much more I want to say in deep detail that would make this video very long, so I'll have to save it for another day. But as a conclusion, I love the show very much. I love the people that I've met through the fandom, through the enjoyment of fan arts, or edits, or analysis posts, or videos. And I highly recommend this show to anyone who is willing to watch it. Thank you for sticking with me this long into the video. I hope this was of some use to you, and I hope you have a wonderful day or night. Bye!